So, 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 Shadow Wizard Monkey Gang at once casting spells. Don't know what that means. Hello, Emma. Feel free to sleep. Maybe this will, this quick talk will help you sleep. So, the script, I'm working on a script again, as we do once a week, and this one is going to be about community versus individualism, because that's what y'all voted for. Y'all voted for the "we are lonely and we crave community" option. Here, I'll show you what you guys voted for. Watch. I'll show you. You voted for that. That's what you voted for. See? And the thing about it, thank you so much for the support. The thing about it is that it's an extremely complicated topic, which I am extremely fascinated with. And I have so much to say and yet nothing to say about, because there are these thoughts on it that I wanted to cite and extrapolate on, but it was from this podcast or something that I was listening to, and I can't find it, and I don't remember what it is, and it makes me really itchy. Like, really, it's like I'm itchy. It's like I was like, I'm itchy. Like, I get so fucking irritated when I know that I want certain thing. Like, when I want to find something, I want to get something, and I can't. So I've been digging and trying to think of where it was from and what it was. I know that there was something to do with the conversation of authenticity versus sincerity. I know that was mentioned towards the beginning of the podcast. And this particular duality, I think they were talking about Lionel Trilling, so I was reading some of the Lionel Trilling book, but I don't remember who it was or what episode it was, and I was reading the Lionel Trilling book, and I got some cool notes, but I couldn't find the thing. Can we restart? I missed 2 minutes. Just rewind. I'm doing great, though. And I'm just, so I'm going to kind of talk through the next video with y'all and see if anything, because I think the best way I'm going to go about it, particularly knowing that my whole brain is fucked right now from like antihistamines. I've taken like a Zert. I'm off a clean Zert and a couple of Legras. It has created a type of soup in my brain, a type of the cat is going crazy. Oh Lord. So what I'm gonna do with this script is just sort of try to speak my mind. I'm just gonna try to write a script from the heart and not have a terrible amount. I'm not gonna have too much like empirical stuff or theory to draw on, which is extremely nerve-wracking, because it would be so much cooler if I could just be like broop, and then at the same time I'm like, oh, and I definitely need like a good workout that would help. Good Lord. Oh man. He off the Allegra. I am off the Allegra. Yeah, the histamines are beating my ass. So there's an interesting trend that I wanted to talk about for this video upcoming. There's an interesting sort of conundrum that people are experiencing. Everything's interesting and everything's a conundrum, but in particular, we are always talking about social media is this and social media is that. Thank you, Emma. Oh God, the cat. We're always talking about how social media is isolating us and how we are in an age of being more atomized than ever, and yada yada yada, and all that good stuff. And I'm not entirely in disagreement with that notion. I'm also, what we do on this channel oftentimes, especially in the times we've talked about mental health and things like this, which is often we're drawing back to this idea that has been sort of betrayed. This has been sort of snuck away from us. Um, it's sort of like hidden from us that, in fact, your mental health issues do not exist within this bubble of your life. That like your mental health issues are not simply these things that occur within you out of nowhere and are clearly sort of just your job to deal with, but that our environment affects us, right? The people around us affect us. Our lives are very much determined by the things that we have no control over, including and especially meaning the bazillions of people that are around us that determine what our lives are. Um, this is kind of a good. Maybe this should be the vibe of the video. The vibe of the video is just me. I'm just gonna fucking ramble for 40 minutes, and then Denial will just cut it up, suture it, make it look like a beautiful, like turn a cadaver into a walking human being, Frankenstein the fuck out of it. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this, but to Deny, because I can't write it. I don't know if I can write a script. But there's this emergence of a sort of an idea that, we're going to be talking about systems and structural issues rather than individuals, which, yeah, sure. And then there's these ideas of we're going to, talk about how, as a matter of fact, individualism, this is coming up a lot, individualism is running rampant in our culture and our society, and capitalism wants this, and what we actually need is a return to the collective, or what we need is to turn towards collectives and to build communities and cooperatives and cooperation. And I'm like, yes, except it's not that simple, obviously. And I think that we have a tendency now with everything that we talk about, when we talk about it, especially the people who do the talking most publicly and visibly, meaning motherfuckers that go on social media, got like 1,000 followers, a liberal arts education, a cute smile, etc. We're talking about, these types of folks and this type of discourse and social media and whatnot. It's always like a fetishization of some idea, right? It's nothing wrong with being positive. It's nothing wrong with being like but looking towards something. But there's a fetishization that occurs when it comes to a particular solution. It always turns into almost its own type of dogma, where it's just like, now in this case, it's like we're fetishizing this idea of community. We fetishize this idea of community as if it is the end goal through which we can achieve our liberation. It's like, if only we could have this fucking community, and we just got to build this fucking community, right? And I want to be down, like I want to feel that, but I don't get the sense that people really understand what that takes. My thoughts on speculative non-Buddhism. I haven't read the texts. How are you, Sumi? I don't think people understand that community is not like what it takes to actually be within community and where it can be problematic. So one of the things that I'm definitely interested in bringing up that was fruitful in my research so far, one of the fucking 10% of things that was fruitful in what I've been doing so far today, was there's scientific research that's sort of trying to locate and identify. You gotta need some more Dutch directness. you gotta locate and identify. This paper is trying to locate and identify whether or not individualism or the collectivism is directly tied towards better mental health outcomes. And what it found was essentially that it's a toss up. And not even that it's a toss up, because it's not that there's nothing we can point to. There is, in fact, a pattern we can point to, which is that within societies wherein there is heavy collective emphasis on sort of dictating the life and having a mental health viewpoint that oftentimes is negative, negative mental health views and negative social views about conforming and about not, superiority and inferiority, that in these cases, individualism is actually the channel through which a person finds their healing and finds their mental health relief and their positive outcomes. And on the alternate side, that in the societies wherein individualism is rampant and collectivism has within it these connotations of positive mental health ideas and nonconformism and acceptance and resources and treatment, that within those societies, then it's the collectivism that has the positive mental health outcomes. So in essence, in short, when a society is highly individualistic and the collective aspects of that society are where you find the help and the resources and the grace and the mental health focus, in those societies, the collectivism and the collective is in fact the place that you get your mental health, and you find your spiritual balance and your brightness and your oneness as a human or whatever. You find your kind of liberation. Not to say liberation, but to say even just like that you're happier and that like your life gets better through that. You deal with mental health through that. Whereas likewise, in the situations where the societies are highly collectivist, but are collectivist with ways that have very negative sort of views or reductive views or stigmatized views about mental health, then the individual aspects, individualism is actually what you're going to get your healing from. So what we're seeing is that when I say fetishization, we're making the idea of a community into something that is not entirely it, and that is like has this sort of spirit of its own and this sort of brightness and this positivity of its own, that it's perhaps unfair to load onto the idea of the community, where we kind of think because we're in this individualistic society and because we have some connections of the community as being this thing through which we can heal each other and help each other, that we think that that's what community means. And in reality, that's just the reaction. That's just the balance that we have to strike in our society, is that we live in the fucking, like when we, I'm talking about America mainly, but this is the case in a lot of other capitalist countries. The reality is that motherfuckers are really in need of community because of how barren and how rare it is, and how much individualism in these societies is also extremely tied with negative mental health ideas, negative stigma, and in particular, really bad organizations of societies, really bad organization of resources. And that's where things kind of have to be at. You can't just want community. You have to want like the things. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to want the actual things, and whether they come from the community or the individual. And so there are going to be cases wherein you're going to need the community, because you're going to need that space through which there is a normative aspect and through which there is a contribution, a cooperation, groups of resources and healing, whatever. But there's going to be points in which those communities and those collectives reach their limits and sort of fall apart in whatever, not even fall apart, they remain together but in ways that have toxic elements. And in those cases, you're going to have to look towards the individual. You're going to have to look towards the individual, which is to say, you're going to have to, in those cases, think about the isolation of yourself. Outside of that, you're going to have to think about what you can do to put yourself in a room and think about, thinking for yourself. And that is to say that, like, if the task is better mental health outcomes, then in our case, in those cases of places that are overly individualistic, then yeah, community is going to be a part of it, especially because we're understanding also that obviously the things that are happening around us are an important part of what happens to us as individuals. But at the same time, you can't just sit here and act like community is just, like, we talk about community like it's this gorgeous, perfect thing, and it's not. Communities are often rotten. Communities are often really difficult. Communities are often rip you apart. And communities they don't come together based off of everybody wants to, why are you attacking me? Communities don't come together based off of everybody's kumbaya, everybody's really happy and wants to work with each other. A lot of times communities come together because it's like we have to. Like, we're in the community, in a neighborhood, not because I like motherfuckers, but because we live in the same neighborhood, right? Or because we go to the same store, we live in the same, apartment complex, we go to the same school. Like, these are communities, and then a lot of these communities are things that we don't even acknowledge. Like, they're right there in front of us, and we're going on TikTok saying, oh my God, I'm desperate for a community. Meanwhile, you're in like 12. And the problem is that those communities suck, right? Like, those communities are not appealing to you, or perhaps you're just the one that kind of sucks in those communities. Because again, it's hard work. Like, even in those cases where there's a lot of things, it's not going to be cut and dry of like, oh, there's a lot of things like you can just like communities are just going to be awful or they're going to be great. The communities are sometimes, 99% of the time it's going to be kind of a mixed bag, right? And there's going to be things that you don't like and things that you do like, but you go and you do the thing, right? Like, you go and you do the thing. That's your job within the community, and you find some sense of importance in it, some sense of happiness in it, some semblance of belonging, and some semblance of self-importance, whatever. You're not about to knock my mouse off. Bro, chill. You find some level of like, you'll find some level of problems in the community as well. Even though you might have that sense of belonging, even though you feel like, the community is somewhere that you kind of belong, you also don't want to talk to this person. Like, you don't want to talk to Sumi. Like, you don't want to talk to Jaden. You don't want to talk to Carls. You don't want to talk to Belle. You don't like Belle because they talk like this. And you don't like Geist Corporate because they said this the other day. And, you got all these things, right? Like, there's all these things within a community where it's like, there's all these realities of a community where it's like, there's a bunch of things you got to sacrifice with your own ideology, your own personal vibe, in order to continue your role in the community. And a lot of times that process is really detrimental to people, right? Like, a lot of times that process, like, a lot of times it's not. Maybe most of the time it's not. But in a lot of cases, within a community, the amount of times that you have to put weight on your back and the amount of shit that you have to beat yourself up, like the amount of shit that you have to deal with just for the sake of like, I'm gonna do this for the community, a lot of times that process can be really detrimental to you. It could be detrimental to your mental health. It could cause you a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of attachment. But in a lot of cases, maybe it wouldn't even be that, right? Like, you could walk into a community. She just walked out. Like, what I'm trying to say too is just like, if you want to be a part of a community, if you recognize that there's a lack of community in your life and there's this type of atomization, then it would turn out that you'll have communities in front of you that are just ready for somebody new to join tomorrow. But you got to get over that thing in your head that's like telling you not to do it because it's a little icky, or it's a little corny, or it's a little weird, or this person's a little like, everybody's talking about they're so lonely, they're so isolated, and then you got clubs in your college that you could have just joined. You got things around you, like you got a community board, but you don't want to join it because there's a bunch of conservatives in there. You don't have any, like, or you got a bunch of, kids in your school that you don't like. And the thing about living is you got to get on about the business of living, right? Like, at a certain point you got to say to yourself, well, I might not like some of these folks, I might not like the situation, but if it really turns out that I need to be a part of something and I need to connect with other people, this is what I got, so I'm gonna find my way, right? Or you could go, and like the way that the internet works, you could go find a community any goddamn place in the world. You can go to meetup.com and find a bunch of stuff. But the whole thing is that it's like this abundance of choice that you're sitting there like combing through, like, what's the perfect one for me? And let me tell you about, like, politically, like, we have this idea like about building the community with people. Oh my god, we got to build this community. Motherfucking most of the most like revolutionary communities don't come together because people are like, yes, let's build a community. They come together out of necessity. They come together because there's a huge force underpinning this area, and you got people from all over the country or the state or the city or whatever that say, no, we have to uprise, right? We have to do an uprising. We have to do some revolutionary like movement. They got a lot in common, and it turns out, post-revolution is one of the most controversial and difficult things that happens, because it turns out that tends to be the part when everybody kind of realizes how many divisions they have amongst each other, and everything turns into chaos, and then within chaos, fascism and totalitarianism tends to arise. And these are the kinds of things, though, that within a community that forms out of necessity get kind of overlooked. And there's a certain point to which all these things will remain present. Things have to come together out of necessity. So while you sit there and you want that community and you want to be a part of something, you may not realize that part of it is that you gotta break down your own defenses, and that may not be a process that's worthy. Like, that may not be a process that you want to deal with, right? And so this isolation and this loneliness might just be the thing for now, or you might have to just keep trying things, be more proactive about trying to see this and see that and fit into this and fit into that, and and lower your expectations. Lower your expectations, lower your level of requirements for other people in order for you to feel like it is worthy of your belonging to it. Like, at a certain point, you just gotta recognize that people are people, and a lot of times they say dumbass stuff and do dumbass stuff, and you're not gonna have your little community if you don't have people within it that are problematic, and you don't have infighting, and you don't have discord and tension. Like, you don't have discord and tension, and like, these are things that we have all become so frail and fragile to, because we have dealt with these upbringings where we've been really sensitive towards conflict, and we have seen how the internet has allowed us to bury ourselves in our room and find our specific thing, and that has been a huge thing for us. Do you understand? Like, we didn't do that just because we were dumb or just because we got convinced to. We did that because we kind of had to, because it was a necessary part of our life. It was a driving force of our life. It's really hard to overcome the driving forces of your own life What it takes is for you to detach yourself from that driving force, um, from that necessity, from that attachment, and say to yourself, you know what? I no longer need this comfort in my room. I no longer need this desire. Um, it is what it is. I'm just gonna do this. Like, being a part of a family, it's not fucking easy. It's not easy to be a part of a family. I understand why we all love the fucking found family tropes, and we all talk about, this isn't my real family, or I don't like this family. But there's just a point to which you gotta kind of choose whether or not, like, if you choose to not have the family, you understand that that's a fucking hard thing to do. That's not easy. And there's gonna be contingency plans. There's gonna be things that you have to do to deal with that. It's gonna be, you have to be, nobody can know the conditions of your own life more than you, because it doesn't exist to any of us otherwise. Like, and in terms of the direct journey that you're embarking on, that's yours. That's your bodies, that's your brains. We're all in this thing spiritually together in a way. We are all universally connected in some way, and I'm a big non-duality guy, but like, when it comes to your own journey of like what you're doing with your family and your city, your neighborhood, your school, that's on you. And you may be feeling really freaking lonely, and you're going to have to make a decision about what to do about that. And it's not going to come with this beautiful revolutionary answer. There's just nothing there. There are no gorgeous answers. There are no perfect answers. Everything comes with another thing. Every good thing comes with a bad thing. You join that community, you got bad things coming. You go on your own, you got bad things coming. You separate, bad things. You sleep, bad things. You stay awake, bad things. Like, it is what it is. True freedom is about understanding what your choices come with and being comfortable with those consequences, being comfortable with those coincidences, and saying, well, this is the choice that I made, and it is what it is after that. Being a part of a family like mine, we got problems all over the family, but like, I choose to just be this good ass son because I'm like, you know what, this is the best choice for me. Like, I just had this morning where you wake up and you're like, man, why am I arguing with my mom? What does it do me if I win the argument? There is no win here. Let me just be a good ass kid to my mom. I could also be a person that's like, you know what, fuck it, and just strikes out on his own, gets his own apartment, separates from the family. I could be that too. Neither is invalid. Both are valid. I chose this path because I find that it is just a better path for me. I find that it has a lot of benefits that exist for me and exist for everybody involved, and I like that, and it's chill. You gotta just make these. It's this indecision that really strikes us. It really kills us. This anxiety and this indecision and this worry, and then every time we have this worry and this indecision, we claw towards something that's going to be the savior, something that's going to be the white light that carries us away, the perfect thing to accomplish. And you can just see it in people, and you see it in us all the time, and what you end up seeing is the same pattern of like, today it's this thing, and then this thing gets co-opted, or doesn't. We learn a bit more about it, and it's not quite as cool as it seems, and then we go, well, what about the next thing? And then there's and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And it's just a matter of saying, like, you know what, this life thing, when you make attachments, is full. You will create suffering. That's it. You attach yourself to things and you want things super bad. Well, that comes with pain. You got to be willing to say, well, I knew that this was coming. I'm dealing with the pain. I make the metaphor all the time with Stan Twitter. Motherfuckers used to go on Stan Twitter and argue. We used to every day. This is what Stan Twitter's foundation is. It's people. You log on, you tweet hot takes, you tweet takes that people are gonna jump you for. You get jumped and you get really mad for some reason. Why the fuck are they jumping me? Like, you didn't see it was coming. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't know it was coming. Oh, they're doing something really wrong to me. Yeah, I know. You knew that they were gonna do something really wrong to you. Like, and then you say that to somebody, it's like this victim blaming. It's like, no, it's not your fault that they're doing something wrong. But as far as you're being prepared for it, there's a certain point where you got to be prepared, especially if you've done it before and you get the same outcome over and over again. You know, people always make those jokes about doing the same outcome, like doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. It just makes it makes you wonder, like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, you've completely tapped out of your human survival instinct. You know, if you can't handle the situation, put yourself in a healthier situation, for the love of God. Because we want to see you happy, we want to see you healthy, we want to see you in a good situation, because that's better for everybody involved, everybody that you know. It's better for you, it's better for us, it's better for, like, but you can't, if you keep putting yourself in a bad position, you know. And this is the conversation that I think is the uncomfortable part when it comes to the community thing, is we're all talking about what we really need is collective. We really need the collective, we really need the community. And it's like, are you understanding what that takes? Are you understanding that that is a decision that is being made as a practical counteraction to a current situation that will present its own problems, but will also ultimately achieve progress in the particularities that we are interested in achieving progress towards? Or are you saying, like, this is it, this is the moment, just achieve the community, and then everything takes off from there, and then we hit pay dirt, boom. You know, you want pain or numbness? I don't think that's the duality. I think you can have like a very calm, peaceful life with zero attachments. I mean, that's Buddhism, right? Like, but when you make the attachments, you know what's coming. When you attach yourself to an idea, oh, I love my mom. My mom is my whole world. Well, you know what that means. You know what's coming around. Like, oh my God, I love to eat Takis. And then you eat the Takis, and guess what you're thinking? Like, guess what you're what's gonna happen with those Takis in your body later on today? You know, like, that's just how it goes. I love training kickboxing. Well, you know what happens when you train hard? You injure yourself. You know, oh, I love staying at home and not training. I don't like to exercise. Well, you know what's gonna happen when you don't exercise. The true freedom is being able to be like, I know. The true freedom is being able to say, I know, I accept it. That's when a motherfucker really, that's when people really respect you. And that's when you really have respect for yourself, and when you really feel in control of your life, is when you're able to make a choice and say, yeah, well, I understand that there's going to be some problems here. I understand that there's going to be some consequences with this choice, but I will live with those. Because then you make the decisions based off of what the best thing to do is, and not merely based off of trying to take control of a situation that you simply are not entitled to. Like when you go on Stan Twitter and you antagonize people, and then you want to tell people to stop antagonizing you and lecture them all about it. And it's like, that's great. You're absolutely right. But it means absolutely nothing. You're just continuously hitting yourself over the head with the bat, and then decrying the pain of constructing a bat so hard. And it's like, hey man, you know, accepting. You just accept it. You just go boom. You just go whatever. Like, it is what it is. The motherfucker, like, the people who go on Stan Twitter that, like, I've been friends with for a long time, they know what's coming. They don't care. They don't care that people are gonna be in their DMs saying nasty stuff. They're not gonna reply to it. They're not even gonna notice it. They're gonna laugh about it in a FaceTime chat afterwards, even though it's a bad thing that's happened to them. You know why? Because they're comfortable with that bad. You make comfort with the bad part, and you just see how much things open up. And so this is what I come down to when it comes to most of the conversations and essays we work on here, is, you know, okay, let's present the facts, and then you make your decision, and you just gotta understand that your decision is not, there's no perfect decision, and whatever you choose is gonna come with stuff, and a lot of the times you're not gonna know what stuff is gonna come with, so you make the choice and you think, okay, well, this is gonna happen. No problems will arise, and then the problems arise, and you're like, huh. But then the best thing you can do is just be like, let me act correctly in that situation, right? So community is not some silver bullet, obviously. And I think community is something that is sorely needed in response to a ruthlessly individualizing social structure. Incentivizing group work and community work. But that has to be based on certain terms. And that's part of the problem too, is that people want community because they want the action, they want the praxis, they want the study, they want the people to hang out with, they want the people to go on dates with, the prospective partners, they want the social status, they want the vibes, like they want the vibe, like they want all of it. And it's like when we talk about politics, we gotta separate vibes, because this is a matter of power, like concentrations of power. This is a matter of real politic, right? to use a term, right? Like this is a matter of like getting things done, and getting things done. When you truly care about getting things done, it takes precedence over other things. So that means that you're gonna have to be working with some motherfuckers that you don't like in order to get the thing done. But most of us are so fucking detached from that. We don't want to do that right now. We don't want to do that right now, and I get it, and so that's fine. But don't be shocked when the things don't get done, because you're the first person that's like, I don't want to do this with this person. I don't want to do this with that person. You don't want to hang out with the mean white boys in your area. That's great. That makes a lot of sense. They're mean, but like, if they're the only people that can help you get the thing done, which is a false dichotomy. That's rarely ever what the situation is. The whole point of what I'm saying is like, we're really interested in pointing out these divisions too, and these particularities, and like this particular thing that this happened with this and this, and these people and do this and these people do that, and that's great. Okay, but like, unless you've done it in a way that you feel like it's still keeping yourself in community with people, like if you're swearing up and down, I'm not in community with this person, I'm not in community with these people, I'm not in community with these people. Well, who are you in community with, and what are y'all doing? Like, let's see it. Everybody wants to talk more about who they don't want to be in community with, and not about who they want to be in community with, because the person that they want to be in community with doesn't exist. It's a prospective person. It's like if they're in a Tinder fucking meetup. They're searching for a person between this and this age with this and this body profile who likes this and likes that and listens to this band. Like, what are you talking about? That's not how it works. There's John over there, there's Bob over here, there's Salma over there. Like, pick a person. That's how it works. If there's a fucking bunch of snow in the road in front of your driveway, and you can't drive, you can't get out on the road because of all the snow, who's gonna help you get that snow out if not the motherfuckers in the neighborhood? And that includes the MAGA dude over there, that includes the weird nationalist people over here, that includes the people over here that smell weird. You just gotta pick, but they're gonna be the ones with the shovels. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being like, hey, all right, let's shovel this shit, and you work together and you shovel this shit, and maybe you joke and laugh and make sure it's a nice time, and then you never have to talk to those people in other contexts. But when it came to that road, you got shit done. That's what humans do, right? Like when it comes down to it, once the snow is on the road, motherfuckers get to shoveling. But most people don't want to look at their lives that way. They don't want to get about the business of living. They want to analyze the life and then try to just neatly pick out the perfect step. Like they want to neatly pick out, like, here it is. I will believe in this ideology and dress this way. Here I go. And that's where the individuality really kills us. But more so than that, it's not about an individuality or about a collective at all. It's about an essentialization. It's about a dogma. It's about an attachment, because there's plenty of people who dogmatize, as I think we are sometimes in the process of doing here, who sometimes dogmatize the collective. And that's how you get motherfuckers like, I don't know, totalitarian state apologists, right? That's where you get people that are like, no, we have never actually committed any genocides. You know, we are a noble people. We only did that because we were in a bad position, and it wasn't really genocide if you think about it. And it's like, then you sit there and you're like, how could these people be so dogmatic? How could they not see the truth when it's right in front of them? Because they essentialize. It's the same thing we all do. The narratives of our life are too complicated. If we are to attach ourselves to things that exist in this world, then there is simply too much work to do to also avoid, the generalizations. So without a proper mechanism through which we as human beings can accept the contradictions and the wrongs and aim towards living a life that is pragmatically trying to address the issues in front of us, we're going to be constantly talking about 17 different things at once. So should it start and end at the shoveling or go further beyond achieving a singular task or goal? It depends. That's where the communities form. That's why we're in like 10 different communities, where you have one community that's your drama club that you do theater with in high school, and then you have this other community that's the people who shovel the snow out of the road or whatever. Like, that's how this works. But when you're sitting there and you're like, man, I'm just so lonely, and I want this particular type of people that are around me, you got to understand, like, there's only so many things you can ask of human beings before you're asking too much. Good night, Omega Rift. There's only so many things you can ask of the humans around you before it's too much. There's only so many specifications you can ask for out of a human being. And even with those specifications, if you find that person, you're going to have a whole new issue with them. They're going to have some flaws. That's what it is. Everybody always likes to talk about, oh, well, there'll be flaws. It won't be perfect, but it'll work out. But then nobody ever actually wants to do that, though. Like, nobody's ever actually, when people are always, oh, the flaws are going to be fine. Imperfection is a part of life. But then when the imperfection shows up, we're like, what the fuck? So community is the one issue then. So if it's over, and if so, it's overdue to consumerism and individualism, at least the USA. I kind of think I see what you're saying. It's like, I think you're getting what I'm saying. It's like, we have this insane amount of individualism in the US, right? And in capitalist states like the US, similar in the UK, similar in certain parts of Europe and Latin America, a hyper individuality, a hyper narrow yourself down to this perfect, authentic self, and separate yourself and work harder than everybody else and look cuter than everybody else, etc., etc. And yes, of course, that's extremely atomizing and extreme. Of course, also we have this really impossible task we put ourselves in, where we're trying to figure out how to solve issues that happen in our lives, as if we're the only ones in control of it when we're not, right? Like the mental health stuff, it comes down to the community, the people around you, more so even than what's going on in your own brain. If you can't pay your landlord on time for your rent, that fucking affects your mental health, etc., etc., right? These are the things that we're kind of coming to now, but in the process of coming to that, we're starting to fetishize the community and saying, like, yes, well, that means that if you just work together, it's like, yes, but you work together for an aim, just as you work on your own for an aim. And there's only so much you can do on your own before you gotta start looking for help, and there's only so much you can work with others on before you gotta start diverging on your own. And that path is that slippery middle path that everybody's got to figure out for themselves. Where's the line, though? How bad does a community member have to be for it to be worth leaving the community for? That's everybody's own decision. For me, it depends on what the community, for the things I might be a part of in real life, I don't really want to know what you're up to. I don't really want to know like what your personal life is. If I'm trying to get something done with you in real life, then we're going to try to get that done. And that's a pretty understood thing, the shoveling the snow metaphor. If it comes to a political thing, then we set certain goals, and if we're trying to meet those, everything has to come down to trying to meet those goals. That's how the community, the political community work is supposed to be. So when a person within that community is doing things that are detrimental towards achieving those goals, then that's when you start talking about problems. And of course, that's subjective to a certain point, but everything is subjective to a certain point. It's all made up. So at the end of the day, you make your choices and you live with them. That's all I'm trying to say. Yeah, you live with them. Yeah. So that was fun. I'll get back on that script tomorrow morning or something. The allergies are kicking my ass, but it's been an absolute pleasure talking to y'all. So I will talk to you soon. Make sure you stay safe and healthy and hydrated. I'll have a cool live stream out for you, I think Tuesday night, so be ready. See ya. Oop.